Hello and welcome to PubMed Essentials. My name is Ellie Swoboda and I'm one of the librarians here at the Strauss Health Sciences Library on the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus. The goal of this recording is that you'll be able to learn more about PubMed, what it is, and how you could search it efficiently. As we go along, I will reference different resources and they will be linked in the description below the video. So please feel free to check those out. And without further ado, we'll move forward into the class. So the goal of this class, I hope that after watching this recording, you will learn the unique features of PubMed. So what is it and why would you want to search it? I hope that after this, you'll be able to perform searches using advanced search options to be able to adjust your search and do it strategically. I hope that you'll learn how to adapt your searches. So you'll be able to analyze how PubMed is helping you out and trying to map your search terms and how you can adjust those if you need. One thing I really hope that you leave learn after watching this class is that searching is often contextual and will vary based on the question and based on the number of results you're hoping to find for what you're doing. Lastly, I hope that you'll learn how to manage and utilize your searches. So you'll learn how to save searches, how to create alerts, how to display citations, and how to get access to full text. So that is what we hope to cover in the class today. To get started, I like to zoom out a little bit and just think about the landscape of searching in general. We currently are living through an explosion of scientific literature, and literature is kind of just a catch-all term for a lot of the publications that are coming out about the different research that people are doing in the field of health sciences. Researchers are authoring millions of publications every year. Some of these are journal articles, some are white papers, some are conference presentations, some are clinical trials, and some are other types of publications that aren't covered here. And because there's such a large amount of literature being produced in the scholarly world, one thing that can help us to find them more efficiently is to use databases. So databases are designed to organize literature and consolidate them. They allow for more strategic and efficient searching because they can group research based on topic. So there's databases that are very law focused, business focused, or health sciences focused. And what's nice about that is that if you put your search question in the database that matches the topic you're interested in, you have to wade through less noise. So you won't have to look through history publications or art history publications when you're looking for things on your topic or health sciences on our campus. Because databases require a lot of effort from catalogers and librarians to organize them, many are private and subscription based. So there's a lot of cost that comes with organizing these millions of citations and organizing them. So because of that, oftentimes databases can be quite expensive, which leads us though to PubMed. So PubMed is different in that it is funded by the federal government and managed by the National Library of Medicine. So because of that, it is free to the public. So everyone in the world can access PubMed for free. And it is a very large database. It does a very good job of staying current with the new research that's coming out. So it has more than 38 million citations in it, and millions of citations get added every year. It also is focused on biomedical literature. So again, you won't, when you're searching through here, you're not going to have to push past citations from other fields or of research. It's really pretty focused. So that is a little bit about like what's cool about PubMed and what makes it unique. When it comes to thinking about searching PubMed, it's useful to know what specifically PubMed searches. So in general, PubMed searches citation information. So the information that you would need or use to make a citation in like your paper or your bibliography. So PubMed searches things like titles. It searches journal titles, so the title of the journal that published the article. It searches the names of authors. It also searches those authors' affiliations, so that's where does the author work. And then it also, in addition to like that basic citation information, it also searches abstracts if an abstract has been provided. So most research publications, in addition to their full article, will have an accompanying abstract that summarizes what the article is talking about, and that abstract often will get uploaded into PubMed and can be searched by PubMed. One thing that PubMed does not search is full text. So the actual PDF of the article is not accessible to the PubMed search algorithm. And so if you're searching for something that only gets mentioned in the full text, it will not be able to match that search to the full text because it doesn't have access to the full text. Which just prioritizes, again, why it's important to make sure if you're ever an author that your abstract really uses the precise language that matches the paper so people can find your paper. Lastly, in addition to searching citation information and abstracts, PubMed also searches a controlled vocabulary. Many databases will have a controlled vocabulary that helps to index articles based on what the article is about. And so the controlled vocabulary in PubMed is called medical subject headings. Sometimes you'll see it abbreviated as MESH. So there are a certain number of MESH terms that get applied to the articles that are indexed in Medline. And those MESH terms, I kind of like to think of them almost as like hashtags if librarians controlled hashtags. So there's only one hashtag per topic, and those help to kind of group articles by type or by topic. So those are the main things that PubMed searches. So when it comes to actually searching, I'm going to show you how to get to PubMed. So I recommend starting all of your PubMed searches on the library homepage. The reason that I recommend doing that is that while PubMed is a free resource, many of the databases inside PubMed are still subscription-based. So to be able to access the journals that our library subscribes to, I recommend starting on the library homepage, and then when you go into PubMed, it'll be like a smoother transition and you'll be able to access the PDFs that we pay for. While we're on the the library homepage, I'll also take a moment to refer you to our little Ask Us tab over here. I hope that you find this class super helpful and that it allows you to get started doing some searches in PubMed. However, if after you get started, you still have questions, or if you would just like to meet with a librarian to make sure that what you're doing is, thorough, or if you have questions, you can always reach out to us. The little Ask Us tab, if it's during business hours, you can chat live with a librarian, so we could help troubleshoot a link that isn't working or something like that. Or if you would like to actually meet with us one-on-one, you can click on this form, submit a little bit about yourself, and then you can request a consultation and we can meet with you to talk more about your PubMed strategy or how you could use your PubMed strategy in other databases, all kinds of things. We're here to help, so please don't hesitate to reach out. That we love to be able to help folks. The other resource I'm going to mention is I have a guide all about PubMed. And so this will be linked in the description below. The main thing I want to show you is as I show you how to search PubMed, I'm going to show you some different tips and tricks. So how to use things like quotation marks, how to use truncation, and how to use field tags. And so if you would like a cheat sheet to come back to remember these different things, you can do that with the little guide that's going to be linked below. So just so you know that that's available to you. So now we're actually going to go to PubMed from the library homepage, and we can do that by going to under Top Resources, under Databases in the middle of the page. PubMed is the first one on the list. It is our most popular resource. So now we are in PubMed, and you can see that it's run by the National Library of Medicine. It's an official US government site. And the other thing you can see in the top right corner, if you are following along or if you're diving in for the first time, you'll see there's a little button that says log in. This is what you can use to create what's called a My NCBI account. NCBI stands for National Center for Biotechnology Information. It's a free account that you can create that allows you to save searches and create alerts, and also allows you to set up search term highlighting. I'm going to link below a video showing you how to create an account. So if you want to pause, you can go do that. Or if you're just going to follow along, just know that I'll be logged in, and so my search terms will be highlighted, and that's a benefit of having an account. So that's just a little bit about how to get to PubMed. Now we're actually going to do some searching. So the first thing I recommend doing if you're going to be doing any searching in any database, but certainly in PubMed, is to write your question down first. So when you write your question down, it can be helpful to follow a format. The PICO format is very popular on our campus because we are a health sciences campus. PICO format allows you to identify a patient population or problem, as well as an intervention, a comparison, and an outcome. So this can be really helpful to focus your question and to translate it into a search strategy. But I do identify or acknowledge that not every question perfectly fits the PICO format. If that's the case for you, totally fine. Still, I would recommend writing your question down and then just breaking it into its key concepts. One of the things that I think can be useful when it comes to like identifying key concepts is to look for the nouns. So look to see what are like those key components and the nouns. The other reason I think about searching nouns is that searching things like verbs and adjectives can just be a little bit more fuzzy. Our goal is to match our search terms with the words that people are using in their titles and abstracts. And with verbs and adjectives, people have a wider variety of terms that they might use. So that's just a little bit about how to identify what to search. So once you've broken your question down, then I would encourage you to use some kind of a tool to keep your search and search terms organized. I'm going to recommend using what's called a search matrix. There's a blank search matrix that you can download from the guide that I showed before that's linked below. So a Word doc that you can use to keep things organized. I use it all the time. Sometimes this doesn't work for some people's brains. If that's you, that's a-okay. I still just recommend having some kind of a Word document that includes the search terms that you're using. The way that I use the search matrix is that I assign each of the concepts from my question its own column. So I'll just label the column with the concept that I'm interested in, and then I'll list my search terms below. What's nice about this is then I just have a nice copy of my search terms that I can always come back to if I need to take a break, or it's also something I could share with colleagues if I am on a group project, or I could share with my professor if I was doing something for an assignment. So I think those are some of the benefits of using a search matrix. The PICO question that we're going to initially search today as an example is, in patients in labor, does implementation of music therapy improve pain management? So with this PICO question, we can see we have a patient population, we have an intervention, and we have an outcome. Those are each going to get their own column. So we're going to search labor, we're going to search music therapy, and we're going to search pain. Before we fully dive in, the other piece of information I want to share with you is the idea of Boolean operators. So Boolean operators are the words that we use to connect search terms together. The two main Boolean operators that I recommend using are or and and. Or is used for synonyms, so words that are talking about the same concept. And then and is used to combine different concepts together. This little illustration will hopefully help with showing what I mean by that. So in our PICO question, labor is part of one of the concepts we're interested in. So we could search the word labor. A synonym for labor is childbirth. So I could say labor or childbirth. And that would catch articles that use either word and casts kind of a wider net. Same with like music. If we wanted to say people listening to music or people listening to singing, you could list those. They're kind of the same idea, and it casts a wider net. Once you have those two big circles, Then you can combine them together with the Boolean operator and then we'll be left with just what's in the middle. It kind of makes a Venn diagram for us. So we'll find articles that mention either labor or childbirth and either music or singing. So that kind of helps us to find things that are actually on our topic. So to get started in PubMed, I recommend you could totally get started here just typing in your search terms into the main search bar. I personally prefer clicking on advanced and going to the advanced search box. And what I like about that is I can type my search terms into this query box and it's just a little bit bigger. I have more room to work. So I'm going to start with our topic of labor and I'm just going to type in labor or childbirth, or I think birth might be also something people might say. If this was really my area of expertise, I might know of additional synonyms that I could or in, but for today, I'm going to leave that alone. The other reason I like the advanced search builder is that I could hit search or I can hit this little arrow and say add to history. That will run my search in PubMed, but instead of taking me to my results page, I get to stay here on the advanced search builder and I can just get a sense of the scope of that search. So I can see that this search is collecting 3 million results. So I can see that in my search history. I also then recommend copying and pasting your search terms into the search matrix or whatever Word doc you're choosing to use so that you have a copy of them for later. Next, we can search our terms for music. I recommend in general breaking things down, at least initially, into something more broad. So instead of doing music therapy, I'm just doing the word music because that would find music therapy, but it would also just find listening to music or enjoying music, right? Anything about music will be found with just the word music. I'm not a particularly musical person, so my synonym that I'm also throwing in is singing. But again, if maybe music was my area of expertise, I might or in some additional music terms. For now, I'm just going to again say add to history and let that populate our search history below. And I'm going to document our search terms over here. Then I'm going to search for pain. And similar to music therapy, I'm just going to search pain as opposed to pain management because I could imagine somebody saying pain management, but I could also imagine someone saying managing pain. I could also imagine someone saying pain perception. All of those things feel related to our topic, and they all involve the word pain. So I'll find all three of those variations. So again, I'm just going to say add to history. Nice. So I kind of like to think about what we've just done as creating three really big circles. So we have a huge circle for pain, a little circle for music, and a pretty big circle for labor or childbirth. Now we want to actually combine those together using the Boolean operator and the advanced search builder makes it really easy to do that. So all I have to do is under the actions column, I can click on those three dots and say add query, and that will move our search terms up into the query box. If we do the same thing now for music, you'll see we have some different options. So now we can add with and, we could add with or we could add with not. Up until now, we've been using or to be really broad, but now we want to use and to force it into that Venn diagram that we were looking at earlier. We'll do the same thing with pain. We'll say add with and. What's great about using the Advanced Search Builder to combine these topics together is that you need to separate search strategies with parentheses in order for them to work properly. It can be tricky to do that on your own, but if you just search them each individually and then tell the Advanced Search Builder to combine together with ands, you know that it'll be correctly formatted. Then you can just say add to history. And now we have a much more manageable set of numbers of results that we can look at by clicking on the blue set of result numbers. This will take us to our results. And right off the bat, the first one, music therapy in pain and anxiety management during labor, a systematic review and meta-analysis from 2020. That seems like a really great, if I just needed to run a quick search and find one good thing, it was that easy. We found something great. If we scroll a little further, this also seems good. Pharmacologic and non-pharmacologic options for pain relief during labor from 2023. That's really nice. But then we have something that's a little bit out of left field. So we have music, we have pain. However, we don't have labor. Instead, we have mechanical ventilation, which is not our patient population. As I scroll through, I'm not seeing the word labor or childbirth, but I am seeing the word work. So I think it can be helpful if you're doing something where you need more articles, for like a literature review or a grant proposal. I think it's worth, after running a search, initially just doing a quick scroll through the first 5 or so to kind of see what's coming up and see if you need to make adjustments to your search. So because this is coming up, I feel like we probably need to make some adjustments, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. So we're just going to return to the top of the page and come over here to advanced. And we can now investigate what PubMed is doing in the background with our search terms. So PubMed is not just searching exactly the word pain or just music or just labor. It's trying to be helpful to us by doing something called automatic term mapping. And you can look at that automatic term mapping by clicking on the little arrow under the details column. And this will show you how it's translating your terms. So it's translating labor into, it found the mesh term for obstetric labor, which is great, but it also found the mesh term for work, and it's just searching the word work. So in addition to childbirth, labor can also mean like work, and so it is mapping to that. Childbirth looks like it's mapping to relevant terms. Same with birth is mapping to relevant terms, but I don't like the way that labor is mapping. We can turn that off, and the way that we can do that is by clicking on the 3 dots for labor, saying add to query, and then we can put quotation marks around that word, and then add to history. Now we can see we went from getting 3 million results to 645,000 results, and we can verify that it turned off the term mapping by again looking at the details, and I can see that it's just doing only mapping childbirth and birth and is just searching the word labor. So that is another tool in your toolbox. If you realize that a term is being mapped to something you don't like, you can just turn it off by adding these quotation marks. For fun, just to make sure we like what everything else is doing, we can look at the translation of some of these other things. So music is translating to music, musicality, musical, musicals, musically, singing, singing. I mean, we're not really interested in like Broadway musicals, but if I don't see it being a problem, I don't think there's a lot of literature on Broadway musicals in PubMed. So I think I like otherwise the way that it's mapping. So we'll just leave that alone. And then same with pain, it's just searching, it found the mesh term for pain, and it's just searching the word pain. So with that, then we can recombine. So now we could add to query our original music, add with and our original pain, and then we can add with and our updated labor. When we add to history, we see we went from 371 results down to 104 results. So if we look at these, we still have our great systematic review and meta-analysis. We have our recent nice one. And now our third one is non-pharmacological management of infant child pain. Oh, so a little out of left field, but we can see it's kind of inevitable because of the word birth. So it's up to you. If you wanted to be even more focused, you could rerun without the word birth, or you could just accept that there's going to be a little bit of noise about people mentioning birth. Preoperative management, pain, music, relaxation with pain during labor. So I feel like we're finding good stuff. So that is our first example search. The other thing I'll mention right now too about managing your results is that over here on the left, we have this nice little graphic showing when these were published. Some folks, it matters to them when particular research was published. They would prefer to have recent things. If that's true for you, you can use this little slider to create a custom date range. So we could move this to 2020. And then that would reduce our results a little bit further. So now we have 47 results to look through. You'll notice there's a pre-built publication date filter below this. So if you wanted, you could just do that one. You'll notice we got a slightly different number. So when we did the slider, we got 47 results. When we do this one, we got 44 results. It's not broken, it's just doing slightly different things. So the slider is going to do January 1st, 2020 until today. I'm doing this recording on August 1st, 2025. And so when I do this one, it's doing August 1st, 2020 until today. So just letting you know, you can do either one. If you want to give yourself more wiggle room, I think using the slider is nice. Below that, you'll see there are some filters for like text availability. Please ignore this if you're affiliated with CU Anschutz. We pay millions of dollars every year for subscription fees, so please don't limit yourself just to what's free to everyone. However, it's good to know after you graduate or if you retire and move somewhere else, it's nice to know that there are free full texts available that everyone can access. So 29 out of 44 are available to the public. So that's a nice thing to know. But again, don't limit yourself, don't exclude the 15 that we pay for. The last filter I'll show you down here under article type are different types of articles. So if you really wanted to look for a randomized control trial, you could select the filter for randomized control trial. However, the caution I offer when it comes to using these filters is the way that they work is they find articles that have been tagged with the mesh term for randomized control trial or case report, etc. Not everything in PubMed gets a mesh term. So you can say with confidence there's a minimum of 11 RCTs on this topic from the last 5 years. There could be others, but because they don't have the mesh term for randomized controlled trial, the filter couldn't find them. So again, nothing wrong with poking around and using it. Just remember that it's not a perfect filter. So that is our first example search. Next, what we're going to do, so we talked a little bit about automatic term mapping and how you can turn it off with quotation marks. I also then would recommend updating your search matrix with the quotation marks that you added. So now we're going to do another example search. So we're going to do, does providing hand hygiene education to nurses improve hand washing compliance? So when it comes to searching this, the first step is to break it down into its key components. And the key components that I identify are, I think education is like the intervention. The topic is like hand hygiene. And the population are nurses. So I would recommend searching education, hand hygiene, and nurses. This is an example of like a quality improvement kind of project or question that sometimes people are asking. And so that is how I would recommend breaking that down. Again, I don't recommend searching something like compliance because that could be really funky. I wouldn't try to search something like improve because again, that's like a verb. And run this search. First, we're going to clear all of our filters. We're going to come to advanced, and just to tidy things up, we're going to delete our previous searches. And so now we can start with the topic of education. So we're just going to search education, or I could imagine somebody kind of considering this like a professional development, or like the word training. I could imagine someone saying training. Again, if there were specific types of education I wanted to offer, I could order those in as well. But for now, we're just going to say add to history. All right, we get about like 3 million searches. And we're going to add those things to our search matrix. Then we're going to search for hand hygiene. So we're going to search hand hygiene or hand washing. Or I could imagine someone spelling hand washing with a space in between. So we'll just add those. Those we get about like 21,000. We also could be searching our automatic term mapping. So it's finding education. It's also finding this journal of professional development. It's a little weird, but I'm skeptical that it's gonna have like drive up our numbers that much, so I'm okay with it. And then we're finding training. I'm not loving that this also finds educational status, but until I see examples of like a real problem with it, I'm gonna leave it alone because I do like that it's like mapping to teaching, and things like that. And then with hand hygiene, it's mapping to hand hygiene, mapping to hand disinfection. I like all of these terms. So then I would recommend searching for nurses. And so for nurses, I'm just going to search nurse, and it's going to search both the singular of nurse and the plural of nurse, as well as the mesh term for nurses. So now we have all of our components, and we can combine them together using the advanced search builder. We can just say add query for education. Then we can say add with and for hand hygiene. And then we can say add with and for nurse. We'll add that to our history, and we get about 1,000 results. So if we click on that 1,000, we can see, nice, hand hygiene teaching strategies among nursing staff. That seems great. Nurses' knowledge, behavior, and compliance concerning hand hygiene. That seems great. Um, Effectiveness of a hospital-wide program to improve compliance with hand hygiene. That seems good. They're teaching. So I like all of these things. Hand hygiene, nurses' adherence after training. All of this is seeming really good. One thing, if I was maybe doing this as like my thesis, I would want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And so we're finding this article because it mentions nurses, but I noticed the phrase nursing staff. I feel like nursing staff is something I would want to find. I would also want to find perhaps nursing student. That seems good. And if they only said nursing staff or nursing student without also saying nurse, I would miss that. So one strategy you can use to broaden your search is we could add to query nurse, and we could add an asterisk. So this asterisk is something called truncation, and it tells PubMed to find NURS and any subsequent letters. So it would find nursing, but also nurse with an E or nurses with ES. So lots of different options. We can add that, and now we see we went from like 480,000 to like 1.2 million. So a lot more. Um, Here's that information. One other thing about truncation is that you do have to have at least 4 characters. So NURS is working great because there's 4 characters. But if we just did NUR, that we would get an error result because it's too short of a stem. 3 words or 3 letters is too short. So that's one limitation of truncation. So we would reflect in our search matrix that we added the asterisk, and then we could recombine. So now we can do our more broad nurse, add with and education, add with and hand hygiene. And so now we get like 1,800. So we get about like 800 more than we did previously. And so that's nice. We have hand hygiene compliance. We can see nursing. Um, so that seems like a good one. We're still getting that nursing staff one, nurses knowledge. We're getting just a general one on hand washing. And we're getting this because remember, in addition to searching titles and abstracts, PubMed also searches like journal titles. So this journal is about nursing for children and young people. But it doesn't necessarily mean that this article is actually focusing on nurses. This one, we can see they do mention nurses. But another thing that it might be searching is it can also search people's affiliations. So it's also searching that someone works at a school of nursing. In this case, they are talking about nursing students, so that's great. But we could imagine that some folks might be from a college of nursing, but not be talking about nurses. So that's where you could consider if you wanted to now kind of pull back a little bit and refine your results, but still use the asterisk, you could use field tags. So field tags allow you to tell PubMed to only search particular parts of a citation record. So if we add to query our NURS with an asterisk, and then add a little field tag, which is a square bracket without a space in between the end of the word, and then lowercase TIAB, and then close the bracket. That tells PubMed to just search NURS and any other letters only in titles and abstracts. So when we add that to our history, we can see we're kind of splitting the difference now. So we're getting more than the 489,000 we were, but a lot less than the 1.2 million we were getting. So now if we recombine, we could say add to query education, add with and hand hygiene, and then add with and our latest NURS. So now we get about like 1,200. So we've kind of found a happy medium where I feel pretty confident if this is my thesis that I'm finding most things, but I'm no longer having to wade through an extra 600 that are maybe just because they're in a nursing journal or written by a nurse. And we're still getting a lot of those good ones. We're still getting nursing staff, nursing students, but we're like not getting that general just hand education one anymore. So that's kind of a nice middle ground. Again, you don't have to be this thorough every time. The example I was giving here is like maybe this is my thesis or my quality improvement project for my DNP. For this, I might want to be a little more thorough. If you were just looking for a good, quick article, I would just do the first one we did, right? This 1001, we found some good stuff. So it's up to you to decide, how thorough you need to be in the situation you're in. At this point, I wanted to talk a little bit about how to get access to full text of things. So if you've been following along, or if you're now just about to dive in, you might notice that your results look a little bit different. PubMed defaults to showing its results with just like a title and a little bit of the abstract with this summary view. If you would prefer to see the full abstract of articles, you can click on Display Options and then use this drop-down menu to change from Summary to Abstract. And this will allow you to see the full abstract of these different articles. I think that's useful just to be able to see, what something's about. The other reason I really like the abstract view is then under every abstract, there's going to be this Strauss Library article linker. This is what I would recommend using to get access to the PDF of that article. So if you click on that, it will take you directly to the PDF if it is something in our holdings. So it makes it super easy to get access to things. It'll just take you directly to the PDF. If you don't like this view, if you would prefer to do the summary view, that's totally fine. In that case, you'll just click on the title, and then over here on the right will be this Strauss Library article linker. And then you'll be able to find the article if we have it. This is an example of one where you'll just have to click on the actual like publisher link. For some reason, there's just an extra step with this one. But it'll then take you to the PDF whenever it loads. And that's how you can get access to full text. If, like in this case, it's not really working, or if you land on this page and there's not this full text availability, there's only this full text not found request via interlibrary loan. If that ever happens to you, you can request it with interlibrary loan. Some folks I've spoken with think that interlibrary loan can only be used by other librarians. Totally not true. Anybody at Anschutz is welcome to request with interlibrary loan. You'll just click on this link. And then if you've never used interlibrary loan before, you'll need to create an account. So you'll scroll down here to first time users, and then you'll be able to create an account. Once you have an account, you can just log in, and then you'll be able to request this article because the information will be filled out for you, which is super, super nice. All you'll have to do is scroll to the bottom and just say submit request. And then another library will scan and upload the article for you. So we really can get you most anything, either through the things in our holdings or through interlibrary loan. We say interlibrary loan could take up to a week or so, and that's probably true around the holidays. However, most people I've spoken with who've used interlibrary loan have gotten their article in one business day. So generally, it's pretty fast. It's also going to be free 99% of the time. If you ever requested a really rare article that had a fee associated with it, our interlibrary loan coordinator would email you and say, turns out this has a fee. Do you want to pay it? At which point you could say yes or no. So we'll never charge you without asking. It's always worth it to place the request. When the article is ready, you will get an email letting you know that it's ready. It won't be attached to that email. Instead, you'll just log into your interlibrary loan account and it'll be waiting for you here on main menu under electronically received articles. I recommend whenever you get that email letting you know that it's ready, I recommend going ahead and just logging in and downloading it because it will only stay on this page for 30 days. However, once you've downloaded it, you can keep it in perpetuity. So you might as well just grab it while you know you have it, and then you don't have to worry about it. So that's a little bit about how to get access to full text, either through just the article linker that takes you to the PDF, or if we don't have it, the article linker will take you to a place where you can request via interlibrary loan. So that's a little bit about searching. At this point, I want to do one last example search, which is in adolescence, does TikTok use increase depressive symptoms? So for this one, I would recommend searching adolescence. I would recommend searching TikTok, and I would recommend searching depression. The way that you could do that is you can search adolescent or teen or youth. So we get about like 2.5 million. We can see that it's mapping to the mesh term for adolescent in all three things. It already found youth, found teen, adolescent singular, adolescents plural. So that's great. If you are just running a quick search, you really want to just find anything that mentions TikTok, then you could search TikTok or maybe TikTok as 2. And that's only going to get about 1,100. And then you could search depression. And that's going to find depressed, depression, the mesh term, depressive disorder, the mesh term, depressivity, depressively, depressives, all kinds of variations. And TikTok is mapping just to TikTok. When we combine these together, we can add with add with and, we get 24 articles. So super great if you just want to find something quickly. So we can see this one mentions adolescence and somewhere it's mentioning TikTok. And then it's also mentioning depression. So we've got this one, got TikTok listed amongst other social media things. The use of social media, it mentions TikTok, adolescence, depression, TikTok, adolescence, depression. So if you just needed something super quick, I think that's the way I would recommend doing it. If this was, again, a topic for a grant proposal, something that you were writing a full paper on, I would recommend maybe expanding beyond just TikTok, right? I would probably say you could still name TikTok specifically if you wanted to, but I would probably also throw in social media more broadly. That is going to expand. Now we're finding the mesh term for social media, finding the phrase social media. When we recombine, we now see we're getting about 1,300. So a lot more, and potentially some higher levels of evidence, so like an umbrella review, another review. So just more options that are a little bit more broad. So that's just something I encourage you to think about when you're putting together a research topic, is just deciding, do I really want to be so specific and just talk about this one specific thing, or am I willing to broaden out to make sure I'm not missing any major research? The last thing I want to show you is then if you have an account, you can save things. So if you wanted to save this search, maybe this is something you're going to be studying for the next year. You're a parent and you want to know what the new stuff is for your kid coming out about social media and depression. You know, something that you just want to keep your finger on the pulse of. You can hit create alert underneath the search bar. You do need to be logged into your account, but then you could name it TikTok depression. Don't mess with your search terms. And then you could either just save those search terms or you could opt into email updates and maybe, probably not daily, but maybe once a week on Sundays, you could allow PubMed to email you up to 5 articles that were published on the topic of depression and social media in adolescence. So then when you save, if you come to your username in the top right corner and go to your dashboard, you can see our TikTok depression search is saved here. And if I click on it, it's going to rerun the search. Sometimes folks get a little nervous because it will return the results in a different order than it did before. It's assuming that you are kind of familiar with what's already out there and that you just want to see what's new. So that's why it is now doing a most recent sort. Previously, we were doing a best match sort. You can always return it to a best match sort by just changing that drop-down menu to sort by best match. So that is something you can use if you have an account. You also, let's say your kid has grown up, you don't need to monitor this anymore, or you graduate from your program, you're not studying this anymore. You can come back to your dashboard, click on this little gear icon, and then you could either just opt out of the emails or you could just delete the search altogether. So options available to you. To get back to PubMed from this NCBI account, it's a little annoying. I recommend clicking on just the NLM logo in the top left, and then over on the right, you'll just click on PubMed to get back to PubMed. Now we're going to get back to our results. And another thing you could consider doing is maybe you don't want to save the search strategy, but you want to save individual articles. You can do that by using these little check boxes next to articles. So you could go through and select the ones that you're interested in. And then up at the top, you can click on send to, and you can say collection. And then you could create a collection, again, maybe TikTok depression, and you could add those 3 articles. So they no longer are dynamic where they won't be highlighted because there's no search terms to highlight, but they are a group of 3 articles that you could return to. You'll get to them by clicking on your username, going to your dashboard, and then below saved searches are your collections. The newest will be at the bottom. They initially default to being private, but you could change it to public, and then you'd have a URL that you could share with your colleagues or with a professor or your friend or whatever you want. So that's another perk of having an account, is being able to save articles. So those are the main things that I wanted to cover today. One thing I really hope you take away with from this class is that searching is iterative. It's very rare to just perfectly put together a search in just your first go. I think it can be useful to do your first try, scroll through some articles, notice terms that are good or that are irrelevant, make adjustments, and then be able to go from there. There's no such thing as the perfect search. You're not trying to achieve exactly what a librarian would achieve. In my department of librarians, there's 6 of us. If each of us were given the same topic, I bet we'd have 6 different searches. I bet they'd all be pretty similar, but I think they would all have, slight differences where maybe one of us uses one field tag and somebody uses an asterisk, right? So it's totally up to you. It's also context specific. So it's different to search for a quick article to share with a friend versus a grant proposal or your dissertation. So the breadth and depth that you want to go to, hopefully you now have some tools so you could adjust based on the situation you're in. I want to reiterate that the library is here to help. We would really love to be there for you. So please reach out to us if you have any questions. Using the Ask Us tab is going to be the easiest way to do that. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to this recording. I hope it was helpful. And again, reach out if you have any questions, and have a great day.